Okay guys, so what we're going to do next is we are going to draw out our own phases of the moon on our moon phase chart, and this is included in the envelope that you picked up from the school yesterday. On this chart, these open circles represent the moon. They represent their orbit around the moon from this direction counterclockwise around the Earth, coming all the way back to itself, with the sun's rays coming from this direction. Okay, so what you're going to need to fill out this chart is you're going to need a gray or black colored pencil, a yellow colored pencil, and then a colored pencil that represents maybe your favorite color. Okay, all right, so what we're going to do is let's go ahead and look at this first phase of the moon right here, right? As the sun is shining on the moon, when the moon is directly between the sun and the earth, all of the sun's rays are hitting one side of the moon, okay? The side of the moon that is facing the sun. The other side of the moon, the dark side of the moon, is on the back side. Because the moon is directly between the sun and the earth, we are only able, so I'm going to use this green pencil to represent myself. We are only, as we look up towards the moon, we are only able to see the dark side of the moon. The moon in the sky is going to appear completely dark. We might see a small or faint outline of the moon, but on a whole, we would call this no moon in the sky, or the technical term for it is a new moon. Okay, a new moon. The moon is dark. We don't see any of it lit up. Okay, as the moon progresses along its orbit this direction, it's going to stop right here, or we're going to stop right here. Okay, as I look up at the moon, as it's now made its way this far along its orbit, I am going to see a different portion of the moon. The moon is still lit up on the same face, the face facing the sun, and the backside of the moon is still dark because it is not receiving any of the sun's light. But because it is now progressed along its orbit, I am able to see a small amount of it that is lit up, but still the majority of it is in the dark. So the way this would appear to our eye is the majority of it is still lit, the majority of it is still dark, the back side of the moon, the dark side of the moon. But we are now seeing a small sliver, a small crescent, as we would call it, that is lit up by the sun's face. This is called a waxing crescent. Okay, a waxing crescent. Crescent meaning a size of the moon, a sliver of the moon that is more than no moon, but less than half a moon. And waxing meaning growing or getting bigger in size, right? It went from nothing to a small sliver. All right, let's keep progressing along our orbit. Here we go. We're now a quarter of the way through the orbit of the moon, and now we're over here, a quarter of the way. We're now looking at the moon from this direction, okay? As always, the same side of the moon is being lit up by the sun. But because now I'm on this side, I am seeing this portion of the sun. If you look at that, this portion of the moon. If you look at that from this side, half of it appears to be dark still, the dark side of the moon, but now half of it that we see is lit up. This gives the appearance of a half moon, a half moon. The more technical name for this moon would be a waxing, growing bigger, first quarter moon. Okay, I know that we said it's a half moon, so why is it a first quarter moon? It's the first quarter refers to the first quarter of the way through the orbit of the moon. So we have gone 1/4 of the way through the moon's orbit at this stage. Okay, so let's keep moving. We're moving along the orbit. We are now right here. Okay, we're now right here. We're looking up at the moon. Okay, when we get to this point, looking up at the moon, we are now seeing it from this angle. The same face of the moon is still lit up, but we are now looking at it from this angle. So the majority of it that we see is lit up, but there's still a little sliver over here that is not, okay? This gives this viewpoint. A small sliver is still in the dark, but the majority of the moon is now lit up by the sun. Okay, the name for this moon would then be, once again, waxing, meaning growing or getting bigger, and gibbous. Okay, a waxing gibbous. Waxing gibbous. All right, let's keep moving along the orbit. We are now halfway through. The moon has now reached, oops, I should be over here, down here on the earth. Okay, the moon has now reached halfway through its orbit around the earth. It is now what we'd say on the far side of the earth. As always, the sun is lighting up the same side of the moon. But because now the earth is directly between the sun and the moon, we can see the entire lit up face. This is going to give us what we refer to as a full moon. Okay, a full moon. All right, so here we go. We are continuing along our orbit. We're going to stop over here, 5/8 way through. We're now here looking up at the moon. Once again, the same side of the moon is lit, but we are now seeing it from this angle, right? We're now seeing it from this angle. Most of the moon is lit up, but there is still a fraction that is now in the dark. Okay, so what we will see is this small fraction that is remaining in the dark. The majority of the moon is lit up by the sun. This is also a gibbous moon, similar to this one. This one also is a gibbous moon, but it is now getting smaller, meaning it is getting smaller from a full moon. So it is what we call a waning gibbous, a waning gibbous. Okay, let's keep moving on. We are now 3/4 of the way through the moon's rotation around the earth. Once again, at this stage, the sun is lighting up this same front side of the moon. But because we are standing here and we are looking up at it from this angle, we are now seeing the opposite side lit up. So here we have the back side in the dark still, and here we are now going to see the opposing side. In this case, the left side will be lit up. Well, when we were over here, it was our right side that was lit up. The side that is lit up is your vantage point, keep in mind, right? Okay, so here, once again, we are at a half moon. Oops, not a half moon, a half moon, okay? This is also known as a waning third quarter. Okay, waning meaning it's getting smaller. It's getting smaller from the full moon. And third quarter meaning it's 3/4 or 3/4 of the way through the moon's orbit. Okay, let's keep moving. We are now 7/8 of the way through. We are standing here looking up at the moon. That same front side is lit up by the sun, but because we are looking at it from this angle, the majority is in the dark and only a small sliver of it is going to be lit up by the sun. Okay, so we see the small sliver here lit up facing the sun, and the majority of the moon is in its dark side. Okay, like this. This is now what we call a waning, meaning getting smaller, crescent. Waning crescent, okay? If we were to continue along our orbit going this way, we would once again arrive at the new moon, where the moon is directly between the Earth and the sun, and we don't see any of the side that is lit up by the sun. We only see the dark side of the moon. Okay, so because the moon is revolving in a counterclockwise fashion, we are going from a waxing crescent to a waxing first quarter to a waxing gibbous to a full moon to a waning gibbous to a waning third quarter to a waning crescent and back to the new moon to start the whole process again. Remember, this process will take about a month, just slightly under. Okay.